Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Michael Mann. This is the Remnant Underground Special Post-Synod Report. We just returned from 10 days covering the Synod on Synodality. We are exhausted, of course. We're tired of the Synod. We're tired of the pathways. We're tired of the journeys. We're tired of spaces. We're tired of it all. In fact, sometimes some of you have asked what this statue is doing on my desk. And, this is Our Lady of La Salette. And she prophesied a long time ago, back in the late 1864, 65, that Rome would lose the faith and become the seat of the Antichrist. And sometimes, when you spend too much time over there, well, it's not too far off the mark, it seems. It's really is getting terribly out of control over in the Eternal City. So we weren't actually intending to shoot a regular Remnant Underground, but I wanted to draw your attention to news that happened pretty much when we hit the ground, when we landed yesterday. And that's something being reported by Vatican journalist Diane Montagna. It's over at remnantnewspaper.com. Right now, there's a link down here. You're not going to believe it, but you want to read it because it's serious. Basically, what Diane Montagna is reporting on is sort of a post-synod development. It's fairly alarming. It's a new Vatican document that is currently under review, and I stress that, under review by Pope Francis, that would reform the papal conclave to exclude, first of all, cardinals over the age of 80 from its preparatory phase, and then radically reshape the general congregations and potentially revolutionize who exactly elects the Pope by having laity and women religious comprise 25% of the vote. And this we saw, during the Synod on Synodality. Of course, what was happening, this was not a synod, a synod of bishops. The bishops had a majority vote, but they brought in so many radicals, including some people right here from Minneapolis, from Joan of Arc Parish, to ensure that even the few conservative bishops who were voting on things, that they would be outnumbered by these radical feminists and so forth that were being brought in, voting on this or that. They were so skewed by the number of lay people and women and radicals that you really were hard-pressed to see this as a synod of bishops, which is why men like Cardinal Muller were like, what's going on here? This is a joke. But the takeaway from it all was, as they try to be so woke, is that there's no way they weren't going to eventually bring this up with respect to things like papal conclaves. If you really want to be woke, if you want to be equitable and inclusive, well, you're going to have the ladies come in to decide who's going to be the Pope too, right? So we talked about this. I didn't think it would happen this quickly. But according to Diane Montagna, that's exactly what is happening. And so it's really important because there's been a lot of speculation back home. Well, things didn't happen. It wasn't too bad. I guess those traditionalists overreacted. No. Nobody overreacted. The synod couldn't have been any worse, any more devastating. I mean, what they really are doing, and we went over this in several of our reports in Rome, it really is all about synodality. It really is all about the discussions. Because what they want the world to know now is that the Catholic Church has finally gotten over herself. And she's put everything on the table, from women priests to gay unions and just everything. It's all there. It's all there for the discussion. So they were constantly talking about how wonderful it was that they were having these discussions. That's like a little sort of a propaganda campaign, putting the world on notice. The Catholic Church, we're letting down the guard. We're taking down the flag. We no longer think of ourselves as religiously exclusive or supreme, the supreme church founded by Jesus Christ. We're just one among many. And the Catholic Church now will be easily absorbed into this one world religion thing. Very terrifying process, friends. I'm confident there's going to be a lot of pushback. There already is a lot of opposition, a lot of pushback. But we got to gear up for 2024. And now, according to Diane Montagna's report, we really got to spread the word on what they're trying to do to fix the elections, the conclaves that are coming. I mean, fixing elections seems to be a thing that's in the works everywhere, in the church, in politics, and it's a little terrifying. So right now, in Rome, Francis and one of his cardinals, Cardinal Ghirlanda, are looking at a document that has as its specific goal to reform Pope John Paul II's 1996 Apostolic Constitution on the vacancy of the Apostolic See and the election of the Roman Pontiff. The document, of course, is Universi Dominici Gregis. Francis is at war with John Paul, just like he's at war with 1,965 years of tradition, isn't he? That's what he's doing. So that's what's happening, friends. And you know what? I just want to leave you with a report that we did over in Rome. I've been talking a lot about this, and if you want to know what's going on, if you want to know what they mean by peripheries, what they mean by marginalized. No, it's not the poor. It's not the poor. We just did a report, the last report in Rome, in fact, there are poor people lying all over the place. It looks like San Francisco or Portland. The Piazza San Pietro looks like Portland at night. When you go down there at midnight, there are people sleeping, bums, people, homeless people, poor folks, all over the place, right? So poor is not really, the Vatican can't even figure out what to do with the poor people. Yeah, I don't know why they can't just open up the Paul VI audience hall. It's a useless building anyway. It's large. They could move a lot of poor, but you see, it's all symbol over substance with these guys. So when they talk about those peripheries, what they mean, and when they talk about communion, what they mean is the communion of the brotherhood of man, right? So they want everybody to go to communion, but it's not sacramental communion that's chiefly their concern. It's having nothing exclusive. There's not like a certain group of people who are living a good life, who are staying out of mortal sin, who are frequenting the sacraments, who are allowed to come to communion. It's everybody. Whatever your religion is, whether you're gay and lesbian, whether you're in a broken 5-time marriage, remarriage situation, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's what they mean by communion. That's what they mean by peripheries. So now at this point, you have to understand the foundational event that they're referring back to, that all of this is hearkening back to. And I want to share with you a report that we did at the Domitilla Catacomb in Rome just a couple of days ago. Because in my opinion, having now spent 10 days over there, nothing is more important than understanding what the wink, wink, nod, nod thing is with Team Francis, the globalists, Davos, what they're all talking about. And they're all talking about one event which set the stage for everything that's happening now, and it's called the Catacombs Pact. Okay, so this is the Domitilla Catacomb in Rome. This stuff goes way back, pre-Christ, obviously, but most of it's dated to the 4th century as far as what they have here, artifacts and tombs and relics. It's 60 feet beneath the streets of Rome is this most extensive catacomb, 8 miles long, something like 27,000 people were buried here. Mostly they use it for burying their dead, but of course also in times of persecution, they would have mass down here. But the reason we're here, obviously, is this sign right here. This is an anniversary sign, 50 years, 1965, which is the close of Vatican II. It's the anniversary of the Catacombs Pact down that took place right in November of 1965, the close of the Second Vatican Council. And what a lot of people don't know is that just before, Pope Paul VI himself came here and spoke again of this Church of the Poor that they were establishing with Vatican II. And the really interesting thing, we'll walk around up here, is that you only had, whatever it was, 44 council fathers that came here to begin with. And they were headed up. The Catacomb Pact itself was written by Dom Helder Camara, who was a Brazilian bishop. Some say he was a communist. Others, say he certainly was a socialist.
I give you one example, which for me was probably a crucial moment in my life. I traveled for the first time to Brazil. I met a priest who was known at that time as the priest of the poor people. His name was Don Helder Camara. And he brought me to the favelas of Recife, and I was so shocked. And I said, I have to invite this bishop to Davos to tell the people what poverty is.
He wasn't actually here the night of the signing because he was working on the redaction of Gaudium et Spes. So this is a council father that actually co-wrote one of the most controversial documents of Vatican II, as we've talked about before. But he set the wheel in motion for the Pact of the Catacombs to bring the Church of the Poor, to get rid of all the glory and majesty of the Middle Ages and the Renaissance and the traditional Latin masses and Monsignor titles and regalia and all that. Get rid of all of it, strip it down to a Protestant version of Catholicism. They go down into this catacomb and make a pact. They swear in the middle of the night to do this. And then ever since that's happened now, they go back and renew this Catacomb Pact, like it just happened again during the Synod this week. So you have not only this historical fact that happened, but then they keep going back and renewing it. So Francis, right out of the gate, one of the first things he did when he became Pope was again renew his commitment to this church of the poor, remember?
Viene l'applauso consueto perché è stato eletto il Papa. E lui mi abbracciò, mi baciò e mi ha detto non ti dimentichi dei poveri. E quella parola è entrata qui, i poveri, i poveri.
In other words, everything that we're seeing right now, everything that's happening at the Synod, all of it, the foundation stone, happened right down here in this catacomb where you had rank modernists who were unhappy with the Archbishop Lefebvre and the conservatives at Vatican II, kind of like what we're having in Synod right now, where you have some conservatives who are trying to hold the line on gay marriage unions, blessing unions and deaconesses and all that. And then you have all these liberal guys who are fighting against them, even here at the Synod. So that was happening at Vatican II, and you have this incredible civil war going on. So what happened with the original schema, all the work that had gone into building the 16 documents of Vatican II in such a way that they would have been in continuity with your tradition, it all just gets thrown away. They just chuck it. And these lunatics, these modernists, again, headed up by guys like Yves Congar, by guys like Elder Camara, they come and they say, we're going to do our own thing. We don't want to sign the pre-canned documents of Vatican II that would have been orthodox and all of this. No, we don't want that. We want to do our own thing. So they swear to make the council into this commitment to modernize the church. Now they use the excuse, we're gonna do it for the poor. Well, anybody who knows anything about the history of the Catholic Church knows nobody was more into the poor than the Catholic Church. The church sent her best and brightest missionary priests all over the world. Half of them died bringing the faith to the poor. So that's just a lie, it's a ruse, and now we're going to care about the poor. What they meant by that was not that they truly cared about the poor, they don't care about the poor. At this synod, they keep talking about how much they care, they want to listen to victims. Well, what about all the victims of sexual abuse? They don't care. That's not what they're here for. Well, it was the same at the council. Let's talk about the poor, only it really wasn't about that. It was about stripping the church of its majesty, and it was about making the church flat, leveling the playing field, getting rid of all this glory of Christendom, and making the Catholic Church into a basically an indistinguishable church from any other church, Protestant church or anything else, which is now we're seeing with the Great Reset, equity and inclusion. We're really seeing the need to take the Catholic Church, the religious supremacism of the Catholic Church, and crush it. Just crush it and make it into a very Protestantized church that will not get in the way of any sort of New World Order. Fascinating stuff to think that it all happened, that they had to go beneath the streets of Rome to sign this pact in the oldest and largest catacomb in Rome, to sign a pact promising essentially to destroy the church as it has always been known. And now, here we are in 2023 with Francis. Just last week, they went and renewed this. They came back to the catacombs. They renewed the Catacombs Pact again. And everything at the Synod on Synodality has been to put the Pact of the Catacomb philosophy into place. And we're going to spend the next year now destroying what's left of the old Catholic Church and giving the world a new church of the poor, supposedly, but it will be a synodal church, which will guarantee that the Catholic churches throughout the world are going to be empty. And they're almost empty already, but they're going to be completely empty. What they hope is to bring about the end of the Catholic Church, and what we're here for, and what a lot of people around the world are here doing, is making sure they fail. And that's the whole point, is making sure you shine a light on what they're doing, expose what they're doing, so in the end, this whole mission to make a synodal church fails. Please God, that's what's going to happen. So obviously, this thing sounds like something right out of a movie or a Malachi Martin novel, doesn't it? Well, it kind of is. It's that way. It's just that dramatic. But this is not a conspiracy theory, as we just pointed out. This is a conspiracy. That's what they're doing. They've announced it. They're announcing it all the time now. But if you want to understand what's happening to the Catholic Church, you have to understand what I just explained. So please check out, again, Diane Montagne's report that on the newspaper. Put a link down here below about what they're doing right now to implement the Catacombs Pact at the highest level with respect to the conclave, electing a new pope after Francis. If they get their way, it's going to be Francis II, and we don't want that. By the way, we're going to be back to our regular show next week, running underground right here stateside. In the meantime, keep praying. These revolutionaries are not ultimately going to succeed. But in their Luciferian effort to flatten the Catholic Church and to get it out of the way of their precious New World Order, there is going to be chaos and confusion everywhere in the wake of what they're trying to do. So we need to step up, unite the clans, spread the word, prepare physically, mentally, and spiritually to do everything we possibly can to expose them in 2024, to oppose them in 2024, and to keep the old faith no matter what happens, because ultimately that's the thing that will defeat them if we keep the faith. So don't lose hope. God will not be mocked. God wins in the end, and so do we, so long as we stay close to Him. So let's do this, and God bless you all.